Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Friday. I hope the week is ending well or the weekend is starting well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. I'm having an absolute nightmare, I've got to admit here. This is honestly about the 7th time I've started trying to record this video, and I've absolutely made a balls up of it each time. It's an absolute disaster. So this is about take 7. I should release the outtakes at some point of the amount of times I muck these up at the start of the show. But look, this one seems to be going all right, so we'll kick on from here and get straight into it. And it is a disappointing Friday morning, isn't it? It is that classic international break feel where one of your big name players has been injured playing for their countries. It's a feeling we've all become accustomed to so far this season. Calafiori, Martin Odegaard, of course, and now none other than Bukayo Saka. Now, we don't know yet. It's still too early. At the time of recording this, it's still too early to know exactly the extent of this injury that forced Saka off in England's, frankly, awful game defeat against Greece last night at Wembley. Greece, fantastic, absolutely brilliant. England, an absolute shambles last night. Not exactly the audition you'd want if you were Lee Carsley trying to get yourself a job. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But for Bukayo Saka, he did limp off early in the second half. Now, it looks like it could be to do with his hamstring. Again, we don't know yet. Lee Carsley afterwards in the press conference just saying he's been assessed, that he felt something in his leg. He didn't say what it was, but you could see some of the videos at the start of the second half. He did a run down the right-hand side. And then as he was waiting for a goal kick to be taken, you could see him sort of stretching out the back of his leg. And some reporters who were at the game, I wasn't there, obviously, some reporters at the game said he was holding his hamstring as he sort of limped off at some point early on in the second half. So that's not a great sign. He did also get a knock in the first half. You could see he was struggling a little bit throughout the first half. He sort of rolled his ankle at one point, sort of tracking back as well. So it might be something to do with that. It's just too early to say. We haven't been given any sort of updates yet. Arsenal obviously will have been speaking to the England medical team pretty much straight away last night. But again, we don't know. I've certainly not heard anything yet at this early stage in terms of the severity potentially of this injury. You would hope now that whatever it is, common sense prevails here and Saka leaves the England squad straight back to Arsenal. You'd want him there today at London Colney to start working on whatever this issue is and rehabbing whatever this issue is. Fingers crossed it's not too bad. He's videoed. You can see Chris Wheatley. If you go over to his social media, you can see a video that he took of him down in the mix zone yesterday at Wembley. Saka was sort of walking a little bit gingerly afterwards with one of the members of the England coaching staff alongside him. He didn't stop. He didn't talk to anyone. He didn't do any interviews. But he was walking. It didn't look too bad in terms of the limp. It wasn't like being helped through or anything like that. He wasn't wearing anything protective. Not that you could see anyway. So hopefully, if it is something, it was caught early enough and he went off early enough that he didn't really do loads of significant damage. Because look, this would be a nightmare. If Bukayo Saka is out injured, it would just be sort of on top of what's going on with Martin Odegaard at the moment. It would be an absolute nightmare for Arsenal, for all of the strength in the squad. And there is thing, and we'll talk about that in a sec. There are options that you can use to cover Bukayo Saka. Obviously, you just look at the numbers he's serving up this season. Already 7 assists in the Premier League, 3 goals in all competitions this season. So far, he is Arsenal's go-to guy, really, when you need something to happen, you need to win a game. Bukayo Saka delivers, whether it's setting up chances or scoring goals himself. So Mikel Arteta, I was there at London Colney in his last press conference before the international break. I think it was Kaya over at Football London who asked him whether he was going to be watching, and he said he's just going to be sitting there praying because the last international break was such a brutal one for Arsenal. He's just going to be sitting there praying this week, hoping that he hears no bad news about Arsenal players. And already, basically, the first game that an Arsenal player is involved in, you've got your star man limping off. So it is really worrying for Arsenal. It's definitely a scare. Obviously, we've got, a week and a half now, or just over. No, we're Friday. So we've got 8 days till the Bournemouth game. But then you sort of look beyond that and you've got Liverpool the week after, and you've got Newcastle away, Inter Milan away, Chelsea away, looming large on the horizon. You want Bukayo Saka fit for those games. So we're just going to have to sit there, unfortunately, fingers crossed, and just hope that we get some good news very, very soon in terms of what's gone wrong with Bukayo Saka. But I would absolutely hope that common sense prevails here and he is sent straight back to Arsenal. He does not need to be involved at the weekend in the game at Finland. He does not need to fly to Finland for this game. Common sense has to prevail here, and he has to come back to Arsenal to start recovering from whatever it was that he suffered with last night. Aaron here has got in touch, obviously, on the back of what happened with Saka. And he said, "Hey, Charles, with Saka seemingly injured, hope it's nothing serious. How would the attacking lineup change after the international break? We obviously have Sterling for these kind of occasions, so I expect Martinelli and Sterling to both feature while Saka is out. However, it would be a much bigger loss than we lost either Odegaard or White. Saka is just irreplaceable. We might have a hard time on attacking situations as our depth is a lot weaker. I hope Ranieri can get some more minutes from this situation, as he can also cover from the wing. I much prefer Ranieri playing centrally, I have to say, from what I've seen of him so far. Look, the whole reason Arsenal signed Sterling was to help for extra cover when it comes to the wide players. I don't necessarily think that Sterling is definitely Saka's cover. I would say there's probably a chance that you play Gabriel Jesus on the right, where we've seen him play very, very well for Arsenal before, or you move Gabriel Martinelli over to the right and you play Sterling on the left. I do think Sterling's better coming in from the left-hand side. We've seen Martinelli play very well from the right-hand side, even at the end of last season. You think back to that Everton game on the final day of last season. So obviously there are options there for Mikel Arteta to use in Saka's absence. And I'd say that Jesus and Martinelli are probably top of those options. And the addition of Sterling certainly helps you be able to cover for the lack of Martinelli on the left-hand side by playing him over there. You've got Trossard as well. Obviously, you can play over there. So there are options, but it is, like you said, I mean, of all the players who's irreplaceable, I think Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka are the two at the very, very top of that list when it comes to Arsenal. And for both of them to potentially be injured at the same time, and both of them having picked up those injuries playing for their countries rather than their club, just be an absolute hammer blow for Mikel Arteta, and just sort of follows on the theme of how this season has started for Arsenal injuries-wise. I know there's been a lot of talk over the last couple of years where Arsenal have been lucky with injuries. Well, you certainly can't level that at them at the moment because they've been very, very unlucky with injuries. But as you say, fingers crossed this isn't too bad for Saka. A couple more people come in to get involved in the chat post Saka injury last night. Virup at the top there says Van Dijk and Salah stayed at Liverpool. Saliba and Saka leave. Why? Oh, actually, I think you're probably talking about, I've got that wrong. I think you're talking about when we were talking about Saliba potentially moving on, we're in the Real Madrid link. So I think you might have been mentioning that, actually, now reading that. So I'll ignore that one. But Death by Deadite at the bottom there says Odegaard out for 6+ weeks because of the last international break. Saka out for who knows how long now because of this one. It's fine because they'll both be back, be treated like dogs in the next break in November. Something has to change with these international breaks, or Arteta should start guilting the players into staying and fighting for Premier League and Champions League with the club that pays their salaries instead of playing in these pointless competitions. I mean, it's easy to say that, obviously, but these players want to play for their countries, and Arsenal can't stop them. Yes, you can pull out a few tricks, and I think Arsenal probably have pulled out a few tricks in this international break. Partey staying, Havertz staying, but you can't do that with every single player. Players have to play for their countries if they get called up. The club cannot stop them if they are medically okay to do it. Yes, you can do this. The whole all players are injured, but most of the time, especially if you're trying to pull Saka out of England, he would have to go to England anyway at St George's Park to be assessed by the England medical team first. So you couldn't even sort of pull that dark art stuff when it comes to England anyway. So it's very, very hard. And, these players want to play for their countries. There's a lot of competition at England right now to play in those sort of wide positions, or number 10 positions, as we saw last night, because Lee Carsley tried to fit them all into one team. And that backfired spectacularly. So Saka won't want to not play for England. So it's very, very hard to do it. But I understand your frustration 100%. It is very, very frustrating. But it's just what we've always had to endure when it comes to international breaks. And you just do sit there, fingers crossed the whole time. And unfortunately, so far for Arsenal, sort of wishing for luck hasn't gone very well because there has been very little luck on their side. Elsewhere last night in international action, good night for Leandro Trossard in the game against Ricardo Calafiori, who you can see if you're looking on YouTube in the background there. Not looking too happy, certainly not looking as happy as Leandro Trossard after Trossard made it 2-2 in Belgium's game against Italy. Italy going 2-0 up in that game. Trossard then getting the assist for the first goal and then scoring the second himself as Belgium came back and salvaged a draw. So a great day for Trossard. Loved his goal, actually. It was a really smart little finish, sort of just classic killer Leandro Trossard-like finish at the near post from a corner. I think it was the Leicester defender. I've forgotten his name now. Faze, isn't it? Got the header at the back post, and Trossard just got behind his man. It's a really lovely poked, volleyed finish to make it 2-2. It's a really good day for him, continuing on his excellent form. Hopefully he can come back unscathed. Arsenal are certainly going to need him at the weekend against Bournemouth. Really good night for Gabriel as well, who's named Brazil's player of the match as they came from behind to beat Chile 2-1. Last-minute winner for Brazil in that game. I looked at it this morning, and the Brazilian equaliser was scored by Jesus. And I was like, you what? Jesus didn't get called up, has he? And I sort of went and checked and realised it was a completely different Jesus playing for Brazil. But I did sort of double take when I saw the scoreline originally. But as you can see there in the ratings, Gabriel Magalhaes was absolutely superb for Brazil. I think he won 8 out of 8 aerial duels. He was just really, really dominant. And it's just great to see Gabriel now getting the praise and the credit I think he deserves, because he does go under the radar slightly because he plays next to William Saliba and all the great stuff that William Saliba has done over the last couple of years. But Gabriel is just such a quality player, and it's really good to see him finally getting the praise and the just the credit that he deserves. And he's just turning into such a brilliant all-round defender. You know, a couple of years back, with always that sort of question mark with Gabby, wasn't there? That excellent defender, but still very raw, would make a mistake, would charge in, commit himself too early, get done, be caught out of position, and Arsenal would concede a goal because of it. It was always that, you know, and I said it many times, and it was true, you know, that he was a bit rash at times, and that his decision making often got his positioning wrong because he would dive in. But he's just cut that pretty much completely out of his game now. He's just turned into such an all-round excellent defender, so strong, so physical, so commanding at the back, and such a threat going forward. You know, absolute top quality centre back, and great to see him performing for his country. Now, Gabriel Martinelli also came on late on in that game. I think 85th minute, Brazil got the 89th minute winner. Important win for them actually in their World Cup qualifying. William Saliba played all 90 minutes for France as well. Looks like he came through unscathed, which is good in their win against Israel, I think it was. No players in international action for Arsenal tonight. I think the next players are tomorrow, Spain. So you've got Marino and David Raya. I think Kivior's in action for Poland as well. So those games on Saturday, but tonight on a Friday, no Arsenal players in international action. Moving on to some of your comments. Now, here's one from Igbo, I think it is, who got in touch. Charles Saliba's contract expires in 2029 and Saka's expires in 2028. It doesn't, I'm afraid. Both of those expire in 2027. I was looking at actually the contracts that expire in 2027 for Arsenal, and you've got Saliba, Saka, neither of which have an option. So they are, you know, you need to be sorting those contracts out right now. Gabriel's as well expires in 2027. We know that Arsenal are talking with Gabriel about an extension. Those talks have been going on for a few months now, and hopefully they're progressing well. I would assume they are. I would certainly hope they are. And Gabriel Jesus also expires in 2027. So certainly when you look at the three there in Saka, Gabriel, and Saliba, really important that year 2027 that those players can get sorted relatively quickly. There is certainly a little bit of the clock ticking type scenario when it comes to them. You don't want to get down to the last year with any of them. So fingers crossed those can be sorted. But yeah, unfortunately, but you're not correct there. Saliba's doesn't expire in 2029 and Saka's definitely doesn't expire in 2028. And we've got here one from John who says, I completely disagree that we have to assume Saliba will go. VVD has spent his prime years at Arsenal. VVD has spent his prime years at Liverpool when they were not guaranteed winners, but competed on a lot of fronts. I don't think it's a dead cert that he's going to go to Madrid, especially if we continue to be very competitive and start to win. And this is, just quickly go back to this one so I can flag this up. I presume, Virup, at the top, you were talking about this as well, using that as an example that Van Dijk and Salah stayed at Liverpool. So why should Saliba and Saka definitely leave? Well, I don't think Saka's definitely going to leave. But and look, I hope I'm wrong. And I'm not saying Saliba's going to go now, anything like that. But I'm just... I would assume, I'd be very surprised if Saliba becomes a one club player pretty much when it comes to Arsenal. When you say VVD has spent his prime years at Liverpool, he has, obviously, 100% correct. But Liverpool signed him from Southampton. I think he was 26, 27 when he signed him. So he was basically, they signed him just as he was about to hit his peak. It's a little bit different. You know, Saliba's been here since he's a teenager. Well, he's only 22 now. Hopefully he signs his next new contract, which I really hope he does. And then that new contract will get him to sort of 26, 27. And you would think at that point, when you're a foreign player who've come over to England, you've tried out the Premier League, hopefully you've achieved all you can achieve in the Premier League and won a load of trophies, which fingers crossed is going to happen. That's why I'm just saying, I think if you get to that stage, then it's just kind of human nature, I suppose, that you wouldn't mind fancying a different challenge. And that's what I look at when I come to Saliba, when I think that I just don't think that he would end up staying till 32, 33. I mean, I hope he does. And he becomes, absolute Arsenal legend. But I just imagine as a player, you would look around and think, well, what can I experience now? What other leagues can I experience now? So I'm not saying it's going to happen right now or in a year's time or this summer if Real Madrid do come knocking for Saliba. I just think at some point it feels pretty inevitable that as a top player, you want to maybe go and experience other leagues and test yourselves at other clubs as well. But again, I'm hoping we don't have to worry about that for a long, long time when it comes to Saliba, because absolutely getting him tied down to a new contract is essential. And he's very happy at Arsenal as well. He said it before, says it in interviews. He's had love in life at Arsenal. He loves London, loves working under Arteta. He loves the club. He loves this team. Hopefully, if Arsenal can do something very, very special this season, win trophies, why would you have to look elsewhere for now? Why do you want to go anywhere else? If Arsenal get themselves over the line this season and win the big silverware that we hope they do, then there's barely anybody better to play your football at the moment, is there, than Arsenal? Because it's a very, very special thing that is happening at this club. So, yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for getting involved. Appreciate your time as always. Do have a very good start to your weekend, wherever you are around the world. If you want to get involved in tomorrow's show, you want to ask a question, you want to give your opinion, a comment on anything Arsenal related, get down into the comments, do that. I'll pull some of them together and get them included in tomorrow's show. Until then, have a great day, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.